Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. I am Arif and I welcome you all in today's session. To access the notebook for today's session, you can access course page on my personal website arifbut.me by clicking this link, Tools and Techniques. And over here under this column, you can click the appropriate link to load the notebook in NB Viewer, and you can run it online in Binder as well. The other way is to download the notebook file from the course GitHub account Arif and all the notebooks for this course are housed in this public data science repository. Well, this is the Jupyter Notebook dashboard running locally on my machine at port 8888, and here is the notebook for lecture number 5.1 of the fifth module, data acquisition for data science, machine learning and NLP tasks. Up till this end of the course, we have been using the datasets that are publicly available in CSV file formats on kaggle.com, which is an online community platform for data scientists and machine learning enthusiasts, allowing users to collaborate with other users, find and publish datasets, use GPU integrated notebooks, and compete with other data scientists to solve data science challenges. Well, my dear students, some other places where you can locate lots of good data sets are data.gov, which is a data portal that allows you to download data from various US government agencies. Then we have UCI machine learning repository, and there are a lot more. My dear students, in this module of our course, we will spend around 4 sessions on web scraping technologies and 3 to 4 sessions on acquiring data from SQL and NoSQL databases as well. Well, web scraping refers to the extraction of data from a website. Although you can copy paste data from a web page manually to an Excel or Word file, but in this and upcoming 3 sessions, we will learn to write Python programs to create an automated process to obtain such data. And such programs are known as bots or web crawlers. My dear students, there are mainly 2 ways to acquire data from a website. And let me touch upon the application programming interface. If the website hosting your required data offers an API, then your application sends an HTTP request using that API, just like a web browser does. But instead of response being delivered as a web page, the API returns the data in a format like JSON, which your application can easily parse. So an API provides a nice convenient interface between applications written by different programmers in different programming languages, and of course for different hardware platforms. For example, the Google provide dozens of APIs like the Maps API, Language Translation API, Machine Learning and Natural Language Processing API, Speech to Text and Text to Speech API, and the list of these APIs is quite long. Similarly, Facebook also provides the Facebook Graph API. The ESPN Entertainment and Sports Programming Network provides API for sports data they have. Twitter API gives you programmatic access to core elements of Twitter like tweets, direct messages, users, and so on. The Skyscanner provides Flights API, providing travel data for flights. And this Open Weather Map API provides current weather data forecast, current weather data, forecast weather for next maybe 8 days, I think, up to I think 40 plus years and back. Great. Let me close these tabs uh, and fall back to our Jupyter notebook. My dear students, for those of you who are interested to study more about APIs, I'm giving a link in the notebook below over here. Although the four major web API types I have also mentioned in this image, they are the remote procedure call, service object access protocol, famously known as the SOAP, the GraphQL, CORBA, that is the Common Object Request Broker, and these days the most common is the REST API, that is representational state transfer. Anyways, I will try creating a separate video on RESTful APIs, but for the next few sessions, we are going to restrict ourselves to acquire data using what we call web scraping. So what is web scraping? My dear students, web scraping is the process of extracting data from websites like social media, financial companies, stock exchanges. We may need to find the best hotel room that meets the client requirement, and so on. Web scraping is an essential skill that every data scientist must have in his or her toolkit set. Now let's see how actually web scraping works. Let me describe it at a very abstract level. And the process can be divided into 4 steps as shown over here in this image. In step 1, you send an HTTP request to the web server hosting the website by sending the appropriate URL of the web page that you want. The web server responds to the request by sending you back a response object containing the HTML contents of the web page. And most of us use a browser like Google Chrome, Firefox, Safari, or maybe Microsoft Internet Explorer, which renders the HTML and CSS and may also execute some JavaScript code and displays the web page in the browser window. However, in this course, we will be using Python's urllib module and the request library for fetching the HTML contents of a web page from within Python. Anyways, once we have accessed the HTML contents, the third step is parse and extract data of our interest. My dear students, since the elements or tags of an HTML document are organized in a hierarchical structure like a tree, so we cannot extract data through simple string processing. So there are different libraries and tools that one can use for this purpose. And in the upcoming 3 videos, we will learn to use BeautifulSoup, Selenium, as well as Scrapy for this task. And finally, the last step is saving the data that we have scraped into appropriate format like CSV or maybe JSON on your local disk for later processing. Of the data by the data scientists and machine learning engineers. And maybe you will like your web crawler to automatically email the CSV file to some fellow developer of yours. My dear students, we will be scraping websites using BeautifulSoup, Selenium, as well as using Scrapy. Let me give a quick comparison between these libraries. Well, this BeautifulSoup can pull data out of HTML and XML files, and this is the best choice for beginners, being the easiest web scraping library in Python. If you're using BeautifulSoup, you need to use a Python urllib package or maybe the request library to fetch the data from the web server. Later, you can use a parser of your choice like LXML or HTML5lib to parse the HTML contents. Well, the limitation of BeautifulSoup is that it cannot be used to scrape JavaScript-driven websites. And this is a big disadvantage, as nowadays most of the websites interact with the user by executing client-side JavaScript code. So we will move on to Selenium then. To overcome this limitation, most of the web scrollers use Selenium, which is one of the best library for scraping JavaScript-driven websites, and is far easy to learn as compared to Scrapy as well. But unfortunately, Selenium is slow in fetching the HTML contents as compared to the request library, because all the JavaScripts present on the web page will be executed. However, if speed is not the top priority, Selenium is, of course, a very good option. My dear students, the most complete web scraping tool in Python is Scrapy, which is a framework written entirely in Python. It is a bit hard to learn as compared to BeautifulSoup and Selenium. However, having said that, its biggest advantage is its speed. Since it is asynchronous and spiders written in Scrapy can make requests in parallel. So Scrapy is the best option for large projects. Uh, my dear students, before we start scraping data, remember it is legal to scrape data, but terms and conditions, of course, apply. We can web scrape about 99% of the websites online. However, some websites have protective measures to ensure that a bot is not accessing their site or extracting data from it. For example, email websites like Gmail and Yahoo, they do not allow web scrapers to visit their websites, grab data, and extract information from it. These websites use different tests like CAPTCHA, completely automated public Turing test to tell computers and humans apart. And CAPTCHA is a category of technologies used to ensure that a human is making an online transaction rather than a computer. Similarly, my dear students, there are websites that do allow bots to scrape their web pages. However, they keep monitoring the spiders, and if they see some suspicious activity, they will suspend you from the site. And the suspicious activity can be maybe your bot is hammering someone's web server with tons of requests. The server may block the account or even the IP address using which your bot is accessing the server. For example, Twitter expects your bot to give a wait of 1 second between successive requests. Similarly, Instagram will suspend your account if they see a bot liking, for example, 50 posts at a time. Similarly, you can scrap titles and comments of a specific channel or video from YouTube. However, repost or repurpose of video contents is not ethical or legal. So my dear students, I strongly recommend that before you start scraping data from a specific website, you must check out their robots.txt file containing the robots exclusion protocol, specifying which areas or subdirectories of the website should be crawled or scrapped. For example, this Wikipedia robots.txt file is over here. You can just read out before scraping data from Wikipedia, and similarly the Twitter robots.txt file is shown over here. Do make it your habit that whenever you are scraping a website, you must first go through the robots.txt file so that your account must not be blocked. Okay, so a bit of motivation. I think that is enough of theoretical background. Let me run this script now. Scrap underscore ik underscore tweets dot py that will scrap the last 100 tweets from the Twitter account of the ex-Prime Minister of Pakistan, Mr. Imran Khan. Let me press Shift plus Enter to execute. Well, my dear friends, the bot has opened a new Chrome browser window using Selenium WebDriver automatically. It has entered the username, pressed the next button, entered the password, pressed the login button, and now you can see the home page of my Twitter account. The bot has entered the celebrity's name Imran Khan in the search text box. Now the bot has clicked the appropriate account and has brought us on the Twitter page of Chairman Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, the former Prime Minister. Great. And now I think it must have scrapped the first 100 tweets. And note the latest tweets. Let me fall back to great. So you see over here we have the 100 tweets. You see this is the same tweet that has been sent on 5th June. Great. Let me move ahead. My dear students, I have just run this script to motivate you, as this is what I am going to teach you in roughly the next 3 sessions, starting from the very beginning. To learn this, you don't have to be a full stack or a complete front-end web developer. However, a basic knowledge of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript will be a plus. You can always visit these links to brush up your knowledge. However, I will spend around 15 minutes to give you a recap of these front-end and web technologies. Okay, so let's start with the overview of a web application architecture. My dear students, before I discuss different ways to fetch data from a web server, let me give you an abstract view of the overall architecture of a web application. And first of all, let us discuss the different components of a URL, Uniform Resource Locator, the string that we write in the address bar of a web browser, may it be Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, Safari, or Microsoft Internet Explorer. The first part is the protocol, which specifies the type of the vehicle to be used to fetch the resource. In case of a web application, it is either HTTP or HTTPS. However, it can also be FTP, file, news, IMAP, telnet, SSH, and so on. After the protocol, we have the colon and double slash, and then we have the host name and the port number, which is optional. The default port number for HTTP and HTTPS are 80 and 443 respectively. And if you are using HTTPS or HTTP, there is no need to mention the port. And of course, this host name, which is in our case youtube.com, is of course resolved to an IP address using the domain name system or the bind call. After this, we have the path, which identifies the absolute path name of the resource on the file system of the target machine. And if path is not specified, index.html file is returned from the root directory of the web server. After the path, over here we have a question mark followed by a query string. In this example URL over here, the two parameters are the YouTube video ID, which I want to watch, and then an ampersand, and then the time from which I want the video to start playing. So the query string is preceded by a question mark, and then we have different key value pairs followed by a ampersand. And finally, you may also see a fragment, a hashtag followed by a string, and this fragment is used to jump to a section within a web page. Okay, now that we have a fair idea about different components of a URL, let's see the overall working, which is shown in this figure. My dear friends, when you press enter, the browser prepares an HTTP request message and sends that HTTP request message to the web server, wherever it is running on the internet. In our case, the server program is a web server, which can be Apache, Microsoft Internet Information Server, Nginx, and so on. Well, if the request is for a static page, the web server prepares an HTTP response object containing the HTML, CSS, Bootstrap, and maybe some client-side JavaScript code, and send that back to the browser. My dear students, remember HTML actually defines the overall structure of the web page. The CSS or cascading style sheet is used to beautify it. Bootstrap is a CSS framework for responsive mobile-first front-end development. And finally, the JavaScript brings all this code to life so that the web page can interact with its user. So this is the case of a static request. In case if the user has requested for a dynamic web page, the web server may have to execute some server-side code written in Python, Java, PHP, or some other back-end programming language. The backend program may have to access data from databases like MySQL, Microsoft SQL, or MongoDB to generate the HTTP response object. And once, of course, the browser receives the response from the web server, it renders the HTML and CSS, executes the JavaScript, and finally display the contents in a pretty and clicky human-readable format. So this is how the overall web application works. Okay, so let's see the anatomy of a web page now. My dear friends, this is a screenshot of Google Chrome browser window showing a website that I have created for scraping purpose and is hosted on GitHub. On the left side, you can see the web page as the user sees it in its browser window, and in the right half you see the HTML of this page in the developer tools window with elements tab selected. Well, inspecting HTML elements is a feature that all latest browsers provide in order to view and edit a website's source code, including its HTML, CSS, JavaScript, as well as the media files. Although we are not going to learn to build a website in these sessions, however, I think in order to scrape a website, it is very important for us to get familiar with the basics of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Well, HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, which is used to structure the contents of a web page, written over here. CSS or cascading style sheet is used to beautify your web page by adding styles and colors to it. And finally, JavaScript is used to give life to a web page by making it interactive. Let me zoom the HTML contents so that you can see it over here. Note the hierarchical structure of HTML in which all the information is contained within tags, enclosed in angle brackets. The entire HTML document is closed within this HTML tag, having two child tags, the head and the body. And below somewhere here, we have the closing tags. Let me talk about the head tag first. The head tag over here is highlighted, and from the preceding arrow you can see that it is collapsed. So you cannot see its contents right now. Soon I will practically show you by expanding it inside the DevTools. Anyways, this head tag is mainly used for metadata, like the character sets to be used, the CSS, Bootstrap, and maybe some JavaScript references. Remember, the information in the head tag is not displayed to the user in the browser window over here. Moreover, if you do not provide any CSS, every browser applies its own default styles like margins, paddings, font styles, background colors, and so on. Then we have another main tag, that is the body tag. And from the preceding arrow you can see that it is expanded, showing all the tags, almost all the tags that are nested within each other. My dear students, it is this body tag that contains all the visual contents that will be displayed to the user in a nicely formatted way as shown over here. Don't worry, in a bit of while I will describe the most commonly used tags of HTML, and for the time being let me zoom out so that I can move ahead. Okay, I think that's okay. Fine. Before I move on to the DevTools, let me spend some time on the concept of DOM, Document Object Model. My dear friends, JavaScript actually cannot understand HTML. So it is the DOM using which JavaScript can modify, delete and add HTML elements as well as their attributes. Moreover, using DOM, JavaScript can modify CSS styles of the web page, can add effects and can perform certain validations as well. The DOM or document object model provides an API using which JavaScript can perform all these tasks, and soon we will see this practically. And in this image, on the left side over here where my mouse is hovering, uh, you can see a very basic HTML document, and on the right side is the corresponding document object model to this HTML document. So in simple words, this DOM is the object-oriented representation of this HTML document that is over here. And once in our browser an HTML file is loaded, its corresponding document object model is also created by the browser, which is like a tree of DOM objects. And in this image, you can observe the mapping of the nested HTML tags on the left and the tree-like structure of objects on the right, having parent, child, descendant, and sibling relationships. Well, JavaScript cannot understand these tags inside this HTML document, but can easily understand and manipulate these objects in the document object model. Let me discuss three common data types or objects of DOM. And the first is the document data type. At the very top, we have this document object that contains all the HTML and CSS of the web page. And below the document data type or object, we have the elements like the head, the title, the body, and these div and this h1 and so on. This div tag over here is used to divide HTML contents into logical sections. And a div tag by itself, of course, has no visual impact on the page. However, you can apply different CSS rules on different divs or sections of a web page using either the ID or the class attribute of the div tag. In this example over here, I have used the ID tag, rather the ID attribute of div tag, and have assigned it a string value of div1. And over here I have used the class attribute inside this paragraph or the p tag, and I've assigned it a value of p2. My dear students, the ID attribute of course uniquely identifies an element or tag in the entire web page, while the class attributes, which we will soon see in this in our DevTool practical example, the class attribute can be used multiple times on a single web page. And last but not the least, remember giving ID and class attributes to different tags, as I have done over here in this example, will not have any visual impact on the web page. The visual impact will of course come only when you will hook these ID and class names with CSS files. Okay, so after the document, element, and attribute data type of DOM, finally we have the text nodes. These text nodes are basically the contents inside the element or tag. Over here, this my HTML document string, this p tag 1 and p tag 2 string are the text nodes. My dear students, if you want to dig out more about document object model, just click this link and read the documentation. And I move ahead. Well, let me now open a website on which we will be learning web scraping in our next session by clicking its first version, this over here. Well, this website consists of 9 books. So there are 9 books on this website, data of 9 books, and there are 3 web pages: operating systems, then we have system programming, and then we have computer architecture. So 9 books on each of these 3 pages. Great. Let me open developer tools for Google Chrome by right clicking any of the element and clicking inspect. Let me adjust the size a bit. Move it down. Okay, that's good. Now the window of the browser is divided actually into two parts. The left half showing the web page and the right half over here showing the different panes of the DevTools. Over here we have the Elements tab showing the HTML code, then we have the CSS, and then at the very bottom we have the console, that is the place where we can run JavaScript. Uh, well, there are a lot of tabs over here: element, console, sources, network, performance, and there are more as well. But I will restrict myself to the elements tab and the CSS file and the console panel over here to run the JavaScript. Uh, Over here, if you click this button having three vertical icons, uh, you can always adjust the location of your dev tools. You can have them on the right, on the left, in the bottom, and so on. So I like them on the right, so let it be like this. Before I discuss Elements tab, let me grab the browser window and resize its width. Uh, Please do note that this version of our website is not responsive to the changing size of the screen. So the entire website is not visible. As I increase or decrease the width, there is no impact of in, increasing or decreasing the width on the displaying contents of the website. Soon I will show you the mobile friendly version of this website in which I have used Bootstrap. My dear friends, do note that when I hover my mouse over the HTML code of a tag, the corresponding elements get highlighted in the browser window. Uh, Sometimes you see a green bar around the highlighted element, and sometimes you see an orange bar. Okay. The green bar actually represents the padding, while the orange bar represents the margin. So okay, up till now I'm hovering my mouse pointer in the HTML code and the corresponding elements gets highlighted in the browser window. If I want to do the opposite, you just click this button over here. And now if I hover my mouse inside the browser window, you see the corresponding code inside the Elements tab gets highlighted. Let me move down over here and let me click this price. You see over here, this is the line that corresponds to the price of this book, Advanced Programming in the Unix Environment. Let me click this price over here and let me change it to, let's suppose, 1500. Let me change the price from 1050 to 1500, press enter, and you see the price is changed to 1500. Remember, modifying your HTML code this way does not have any impact on the actual code. If I just click the refresh button, let me do that, you see the price has gone back to the original, and that is 1050. Okay, let me collapse all the HTML code by right clicking this and collapse children. You can expand all the codes in the similar way by clicking expand recursively. Uh, let's give a quick walkthrough of this HTML code, and let me expand the head tag. The head tag contains metadata for the consumption of the browser only, and that is not the content that is displayed on your browser screen. And the tags of our interest right now are these two link tags, this one and this one. And these are used to link the CSS to this web page. My dear friends, if you ever created a basic website, you must be knowing that the three ways of using CSS code in your HTML file is, the first is inline styling, in which you write the CSS code within the specific tag using the style attribute of that tag. And the limitation of inline styling is uh, that if you want to apply that style to multiple elements, you cannot do that. So we normally do not perform inline styling. We move on to embedded styling. And in embedded styling, we use the style tag within the head tag. And once again, embedded styling has its own limitation, that that style is applied only to all the elements of that web page and not the entire website. So most of the time we use external style sheets, and this is what I have done over here. To link external style sheets to your web page, you use this link tag and give it a minimum of two attributes. The first is rel attributes of the link tag that is used to specify the relationship between the current document and the linked document. Over here it is a style sheet. And the other attribute of the link tag is href, hyperreference, which specifies the path of the file to be linked. Well, in this line of code where my mouse is hovering right now, uh, it is index.css, which resides on the same file system where the web page is residing. But in the next line, href equals https blah 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 blah, and this is our reference to our content delivery network from where this CSS file will be downloaded. Let me move down to the CSS pane and let me click this index.css file. So this is the CSS file that is linked with this web page, having a lot of rules. You can see each rule has two parts. For example, this is the selector that is used to specify the element on which you want to apply the styles. And after that, within the curly braces, you can see we are assigning values to different visual properties of the elements. If you see this dot header, which is the value of the class name attribute of the header tag, I think. Uh, Let me change the background color. First of all, let me show you this header. This is the header. Let me change the background to, let's suppose, red, like this. You see the background color is changed. And let me change the font size as well to, let's suppose, 10. You see the font size has reduced much. Let me change it to 20. It's okay now. And let me refresh this page and it goes back to normal. Great. Okay, so let's fall back to the elements tab by closing this. Great. So we are done with the head tag. Let me move down and expand this body tag now. And within the body tag, you see we have then further tags. Let me expand the main tag, which is the tag that normally represent the dominant content of the web page. Note that over here I have used the three table tags. Each table tag holds the data of three books. The first table, the second table, and this is the third table. Great. So we have three table tags. Let me expand the first table tag. Let's review the code of this tag. Well, each table tag has 6 tr or table rows. The first tr tag has further 3 tds or table data containing the images of 3 books. The next tr has 3 tds containing the text containing the title and author of the 3 books. The next TR is having the price of the 3 books. The next TR is having the availability of the book in stock or not in stock, and so on. And do note the class attributes having different values like books. So this table has the class attribute books. This table also has the class attribute books, and this table also has the class attribute books. All the 3 tables has the class attributes books. And this is what we will be using inside our web crawler when we will be accessing different data from different tags. I think enough of discussion on the code of this first version of the book scraping site. Let's move on to its second version that uses Bootstrap. And to access it, you just have to change the BSS1 to BSS2. Okay. So this is the responsive and mobile friendly version of the previous website. Let me once again grab this browser window and change the width of the screen. You see the contents are changing as the screen size is changing. Okay, so let me click this device icon over here, which allows us to view our website on different devices of different sizes. And from this drop down, you can select the device. Let me select this, let's suppose iPhone SE. Let me select this iPad Air. So you see, the size of your website is very responsive. It changes as per the size of the device you are viewing this website. Let me click this icon again and fall back to the standard laptop view. My dear students, this has become possible because I have used Bootstrap over here. For those of you who have never heard of Bootstrap, it is a front-end framework that includes CSS-based design templates and more importantly gives you the ability to create responsive and mobile-friendly designs. So once again, let me quickly walk through this code. So as usual, we have the HTML tag, and within HTML we have the 2 main tags, the head and the body. Let me expand the head tag. The one additional link tag that you can see over here is this one. Yes, this one. So this is the tag that is linking the bootstrap.min.css file. Bootstrap.min.css file to get the functionality of Bootstrap from the content delivery network. Rest, I think it is the same. Let me close it and expand the body. Well, at the very end of the body, you can see this script tag, which is used to embed a client-side JavaScript code. Note that this script tag is using the source attribute, and the file it is using is bootstrap.min.js. My dear students, other than bootstrap.min.css that we have added in the header, this bootstrap.min.js file contains the JavaScript code necessary for running the Bootstrap. And other than these 2 files, you can optionally add a jQuery.min.js file as well. That contains the additional JavaScript plugins for faster downloads, tooltips, and other similar functionalities. Okay, so let me open this. Fine. In this version, I have used div tags instead of the table tag to logically divide the HTML code into portions. Note this div tag having the class name navbar. This corresponds to the navigation bar over here, this one, you see. Let me further open the first unordered list items, and this is the first list. that says operating system. This is the second list that says system programming, and this is the third list. And let me just click over here for computer architecture. Let me just write down CA over here. You see it is changed, so you can always change things. My dear students, this is a tag, anchor tag. And for those of you who are new to HTML, there are 4 types of anchor tags or links that you can mention inside the href attribute: the internal, external, download, and anchor links. The internal link actually points to an HTML file on the same domain, and these are the internal links. So once you click this link over here, it will take you to our file ca.html that is located on the same domain on the same web server. The second type of link is the external link, which points or refers to an HTML file on another domain. The third category is download link, which points to a resource file to be downloaded, and it can be an internal or as an external link. And finally, the fourth type of link are anchor links. And anchor links are actually used to navigate to a specific area of a web page. And to identify our anchor link, you will see a hash symbol before the href. So let me collapse this nav bar and expand the div class items, and within that we have this row: first row, second row, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth. So all the 9 books are in these div tags. You see the class, same class for all. So within this class, that is the book container, I have the image first, then I have the name of the book in the p tag, then I have this div tag containing the price, the availability in the stock, the reviews, and the button. My dear friends, do spend time and go through all this code, because somebody once told me that time spent on reconnaissance never go wasted. So do make time to search, modify, hide, and delete different HTML elements or tags and observe their impact on the web page. For completeness of this part, let me quickly tell you as how you can access and modify HTML using JavaScript. And for that, let me expand this a bit so that you can have a view of the console. Let me just type document. Well, my dear students, in JavaScript, the document object holds the entire HTML of the page. So I have just written document, just press enter, and you see I have got all the HTML of the document. So this is all the HTML of the document. So this is the document object that is that resides at the very top. And let me just access the body tag within the document object, document.body. Let me press enter, and you see we just have the code of the body tag now. We have different methods and attributes that we can access by using the dot notation. Let me use the method get element by, let's suppose, class name, and let's suppose pass the class name navbar. Let me press enter, and you see I have the complete list of attributes, and I have got a collection. This is a HTML collection of the navigation bar. Let me use let me access the first item of this, and this is the div, you see. So I've got all the three links that are there on my web page as I'm hovering it over here. So I've accessed the first element. Let me now put a dot over here and let's see what functions we have for this. And can we access elements by tag name? Yes, we can access element by tag name. And let me give the tag name A, that is the anchor tag. Let me press enter. You see we have now 3 anchor tags. And from within these anchor tags, let me access the second one. So this is the second anchor tag having the text ca.html. And let me check out the text only. So this is the text, and let me change the text by saying this is equal to computer architecture. Press enter and you see it has gone back to computer architecture. Well, I think that is enough. I don't want to make this front-end web developer course, although I think now you know almost everything that a front-end web developer needs to know. You just need to practice things, or at least you have reasonable foundation that is required for the web scraping course. Let me fall back to the Jupyter notebook over here and move ahead. Well, my dear students, now we have a fair idea of the 3 types of contents that makes our website pretty and clicky. And these are the HTML, CSS and JavaScript. We do have a fair idea as to what happens behind the curtain when a browser sends an HTTP or HTTPS request to get the contents of a web page from a browser, from a web server. And now it is time to bypass the browser and interact with the web server programmatically. And in the next 10 minutes or so, we will learn to get the contents of a web page using the Python built-in urllib package, as well as using the request library. So let's start with the urllib, and let me click this link to visit the urllib documentation. Well, urllib comes with 4 modules. The request module is used for opening and reading URLs. This error module contains several error classes that one can use while using the request module. This parse module has a variety of functions for breaking up a URL into meaningful pieces, like the protocol, host, port number, path, the query string and the fragment, which we have already discussed. And finally, this robot parser. This module is used to inspect robots.txt files for what permissions are granted to bots and crawlers. Well, in simple words, you can say that urllib is an HTTP client for Python programming language. Let's fall back to Jupyter Notebook and play around with this package. Okay, so let me first import urllib. Remember, we don't have to install it. It is built in with Python. And let us use the dir function now. Okay, sorry. Let me use the dir function and check out what is there in urllib. Not much. We just have the error parse request and response modules over here. Let me check out dir on urllib dot let's suppose request, and that is the module which we will be working. Great. So we have a lot of attributes and a lot of functionalities. Let's check out the one that is url open over here. urllib.open, or rather url open, and let me pass it a url https colon Arif dot github io slash bss let's suppose 2. So this is the URL. Let me save it in a response object and let me run it. Oops. So we have an error. urllib has no attribute URL open. Of course it does not have. We have to use request. Okay, we have another error, and that of course says the SSL error, certificate verification failed. uh, I think we have to import SSL, and we have to create a default HTTPS context and set it to SSL dot create default HTTP create unverified context, I think. Let me run this and let me run this code again, and now it is a success. So we have the response object with us now. Let me check out the type of this response object. So this is the HTTP response object. What we have got for us in this, let's check out using the dir. Great, so we have a lot of functions. Let's check out the HTTP status code over here. resp.code, I think. Yes, it is 200. Well, the HTTP status code, my dear students, specifies whether a specific request has been successful or not. And these codes can be in the range of 100, 200, 300, 4 and 500 as well. The 100 range shows information responses, 200 range shows success, 300 range shows redirection. So there is no problem if you are getting anything between 100 to 300 range. We are normally concerned of the error codes which are in the range of 400, which means client-side errors, and the 500 range errors stand for the server errors. Okay, let me use the read method and read this, and it will return a string. Let me keep it in HTML, and let me say print HTML. Great. So this is the HTML code of the website whose URL link I have passed. So we have got the string having all the HTML, which we can use for scraping using BeautifulSoup library in the next session. Okay, so let's move ahead and see about the request library now. My dear friends, the Python built-in urllib package is great. However, we can use it to access remote resources that do not use authentication and cookies. So let us change gear and move on to the request library. Let me click this link over here. This request library supports a fully RESTful API, and it is easier to use and access. That's why it is called HTTP for humans. Uh, and some of the advantages of using requests is that we can use the get, put, post, and delete requests. It has authentication module support. It handles cookies and sessions very firmly, and it is thread safe as well. Whenever you get time, please do go through this documentation page, and let me fall back over here. Since the request library does not come pre-packaged with Python, so you need to install it. And you check out the version, that is 2.27. Great. And let me now get the HTML contents of the same website and save it inside a text file using request. So I've already imported request. Let me check out using the dir function what is there in request. Remember, this is a request with an S. This does not have to do with the request module of urllib. This is request library. So we have the get, put, post, and delete methods. Great. So let me use the get method. Let me say request.get, and once again we need to pass the path. Let me take the path from here. Let me just copy paste it so that I don't have to type. Okay, and let me receive it in a response variable. Great, so it is done. Let me check out the, oops, sorry, let me check out uh, the type of this response object. So it is a response object, and let's see the attributes and methods of this response object using the dir method again, or dir function rather. Great. So let me check out this attribute status code of RESP, the response object status code. So the status code is 200. That means I have a success. Let me check out another attribute URL, which contains the URL. Let me check out the headers. Well, this is the header content. You see, this is a dictionary having the key value pairs, and of course we can access the values of the dictionary using the corresponding keys. Let me do that for you. Headers, and let me write down server. So the value corresponding to server is github.com. So this is the server. Let me use again, let's check out the last modification date, last modified. So last modification date is over here. Okay, so now let me get the entire HTML contents returned by the server. uh, let me say print this. So this is the entire HTML of the website we have got programmatically inside our Python program. And let's save these HTML contents in a text file on our local disk. And with that, I need to do with open using the simple open call. Let's name the file as bss2 hyphen HTML.
I didn't get that.
Okay.
Could you try again?
I don't want to. BSS hyphen BSS2, I think. This is BSS2 index.html. So this is the name of the file in which I want to save it, and of course it is a text file. Let me open it like this, ft.write, and let me write down the entire contents of the response object. So this is done, and to confirm that, let me use the cat command. Great. So this file has been saved on our disk. So let me move on to the, okay, let me move up over here. So this is the user view of the website, and this is the code of the website. Let's suppose that I want to save this image now, not the entire text of the file. Let me click this. Let me click this. So this is the image, and this is the image file. Let me copy this. I want to download this file and save it on disk. Let me fall back over here. So this is the next task. So let me copy paste this over here. This is the URL. This is not the complete URL. Let me create it, and for that I need to, of course, copy paste the actual URL from here over here. So this is the URL, and then I need to concatenate it with this. I need to put a / and then this. I think this will work. So this is the URL on which this file is residing. You can put a double slash or a single slash, that doesn't make much difference, I think. uh, Let me again use request library and the get method and pass it the URL and save its contents to the response object. Let me run this code. So this code has successfully run. Let me just check out the status code. It is 200. Let me print the contents of this. Oops. Okay. Since this is an image file, so we cannot view its text in over here using this text, since this is a binary. So for this we just need to use the content attribute. So instead of this text, we need to write down print. I think we will not be able to do that. We have to use the uh, content attribute. Let me try it. Dot, instead of text we have written content. Yes, fine. So this is the content. Of course you can see this B over here, that means this is in binary. Let me save this content on on my local hard disk using again the open function. The name of the file is, let's suppose, myimg.png, and of course I want to write and in binary, and this is the file descriptor ft.write, and the response object dot and content, not text this time. So this is saved, and to check that, let me do cat my img.png, and once again, since this is binary, so cat will not be able to display it properly. For that, I think some time back we have seen the pillow imaging library. Let me use that for completeness. From pil import the image module, and let me say that image.open, and let me pass the name of the file myimg.png, and let me save it in img. So this is done, and let me show it to you. So over here, so this is the image. Great, that is great. Okay, my dear students, I have tried my best to lay down the foundation that I think is necessary for web scraping. And I hope today's session was informative for you all. If you have liked it, please subscribe my YouTube channel and share it with your friends. Stay tuned for the next lecture on web scraping that will be covering the beautiful soup in the next part. I wish you all the best, happy learning, and Allah Hafiz.